Do you have a one-way video interview coming up and you are scouring the internet for tips and tricks? Well, this is the right video for you. In this video, I'm going to talk about 5 unique tips that you might not have considered before filming your video interview. So let's dive into it. The first one is envision the outcome before you begin. What does a successful interview performance look like for you? And bear in mind that this might not actually mean landing a job offer or moving on to the next round for the video interview. But think about, how do you want to feel when you submit your video interview response and know that you've done a good job? Think about, what is an effective performance going to look like? What is the outcome you're going to feel? And then channel that before you start filming. So visualize a good performance and think about that as you're filming. Number 2, practice speaking out loud. This is something that people don't often consider when they're prepping for their one-way video interview. Oftentimes we will just think about our responses in our head, but we won't actually practice speaking them out loud. And that uses 2 different pathways in our brain. So this is something that will help you formulate your thoughts as you get more and more comfortable filming these responses. Because when you're listening or you're watching or you're reading the question, and then not only do you have to think of your response, but you have to formulate it in a way that you feel is effective or a good interview performance. So if you practice doing this out loud, this will kind of mitigate one of those barriers that's gonna potentially impact your success. Tip number 3 is practice giving short, medium, and long responses. You may not know how much time you have to speak on a specific topic. So maybe the question will come up and you have 5 minutes to respond, or maybe you'll have 2 minutes to respond. Those are very different time lengths to answer a question. So this is something that you need to have practiced responding to a certain question. Let's say, what is an example of a stressful experience working in a team? And so using the different interview techniques, which we'll talk about in a later video, you can have the baseline framework of your story ready, but then be able to expand on key details depending on how much time you have. And kind of in line with that is knowing whether or not to keep talking and use the whole length of time that you have, or whether you're comfortable with your response, even if you didn't use the whole time frame and then you just want to submit your answer. So number 4 is practice filming yourself in the non-selfie mode. And so what I mean by that is often we are used to seeing the selfie version of ourselves when we film a video or take a picture. But often in one-way video interviews, you're not given the selfie mode, which is the mirror reflection. You're given the actual image of what you look like. And because we're all asymmetrical, we have very slight differences in our facial features, this can cause people to really get distracted or feel like they're not looking at themselves because they don't recognize the way their hands move. So for example, in the non-selfie mode, I'll raise this hand, which is my right hand. But on screen, it looks like my left hand's being raised. But if I were to actually film this in non-selfie mode, my right hand would raise opposite. And so the reason this is important to practice is just getting used to what you look like in that mode. Lastly, number 5, film yourself and watch the recording. And so this kind of builds off of practicing out loud. But if you film your response, then watch it. Look for, what does my eye contact look like? Does it look natural? Am I looking at the camera? Am I looking at myself? Am I looking off into space when I'm thinking of my answer? What's a natural way to make myself appear like I'm thinking, but I don't look distracted, etc.? Also, watch out for hand gestures. This is a huge one. Are your hands flailing around because you're really nervous? Do they look robotic and almost chopped off? What is going to look best on camera? So this is really in line with setting up your preparation beforehand. You're doing all of your technical shoots, you're making sure your camera's working, lighting, everything. But just watch for how everything actually looks on camera, because sometimes hands flailing around can be very distracting. The other one is just posture. You want to just make sure you're sitting up straight. Don't slouch. You're not leaning too far forward. Make sure that and this can often be unnatural when we're on the computer, we're hunched over and we're typing, but you just want to feel like you're sitting in a chair and that everything is at a good height level. As well, just make sure your facial expressions are relaxed. Sometimes we don't realize how we look when we are nervous or when we're kind of feeling tightened and highly anxious, but just watch for all of these different things when you're reviewing your practice session. And then lastly, what's your pace like, as well as your tone? Are you talking too super fast? Are you talking at a good speed? Is your diction really good? Is it clear and easy to understand? And are you using just a confident, friendly, relaxed tone and not one that looks like they don't want to be here and don't want to be filming this one-way video interview? So those are 5 unique tips you might not have considered. If you have additional ones that I might not have thought of or could be included in a future video, comment them down below and I would love to see what you have. Thanks so much.